Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Modern Business Operations. Very excited to have our speaker today. Andries, would you go ahead and introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about your background in your current role. And I'm also curious how you found your way to procurement. It's not, I don't think, a field that a lot of people really know about when they're getting an education. And so I feel like a lot of people kind of find their way to it in indirect ways.
Yes, no, thank you very much. Just Andries Feikema, I'm the Global Director Procurement Digitalization and Transformation at DSM-Firmenich. It's an organization on nutrition, health, and bioscience and fragrances based in Switzerland. I'm living in the Netherlands. Long background in procurement, supply chain management that goes over 25 years in total. That was not my first career option, to be honest. Initially, I wanted to become a commercial pilot and airplane pilot. That's what I wanted to be. But things changed, and sometimes things happen in life, they pick another direction. No, I have met the right people at the right moment who made me enthusiastic about procurement due to a traineeship I did for a bank a long time ago. And I had the opportunity to familiarize myself with procurement, and I became very enthusiastic. So I started to familiarize myself with procurement, the training courses, etc. And to tell you this, I even have my master's of science degree in strategic procurement management in the university in the UK as well. So you see, you can get very far in procurement, in even an academic degree in it. So, and I'm still enjoying that, but focus has changed significantly over time for being really within the procurement and negotiations with suppliers and running sourcing events into transforming procurement organizations and digitalizing procurement organizations today.
Yeah, well, things have certainly changed fairly dramatically in the last several years, and digital transformation is on everybody's lips. And it's a loaded phrase, right? There's a lot to that. So, but let's talk about that. So, what parts of procurement are most ripe for digital transformation right now?
If you look to the procurement process, we can split that into downstream. So that's the procure to pay process and the upstream source to contract. And those processes are actually also the most obvious one to digitalize. You see today that procurement professionals, wise category managers, are still very much involved in operational activities, taking a lot of their time so that they cannot focus on value-adding activities for the business, sitting together with the business stakeholders and suppliers to explore innovations where the organization benefits from. So upstream, downstream are the most obvious one to digitalize it today.
I see. And what are some of the biggest barriers or challenges right now to making that happen?
I think most challenges organizations see is that it's on the agenda of many executives today to digitalize the organization, whether it's procurement or any other functional discipline within the organization. What you see is that organizations are struggling with the meager results, time-consuming projects, slow delivery times. And actually, where it all comes down to is having a clear vision. What do we want to achieve, and why do we want to achieve? Having a clear dot on the horizon. Where do we want to move forward to as an organization? And did you know that from recent research, it became clear that 84% of organizations believe that digital transformation will fundamentally change the way their services are delivered over the next 3 to 5 years, but only 32% have developed a strategy to getting there. So actually what you can say is that organizations with clear and documented linkage between their strategic objectives and each business case objective report 14% higher business satisfaction rates than others. So actually it comes down to a sensible vision. So digitalization transformation can easily dissolve into a list of confusing and incompatible projects that then take organizations into the wrong direction or even nowhere at all. So it all comes down with having that clear vision. And that's the biggest challenge I see today with many organizations.
That's a great answer, and I appreciate it a lot. So often in tech, there's sometimes this sense of tech for tech's sake.
Yeah,
Someone gets very excited about some app or some tool, and yeah, if there's no vision to tie it together, then it just becomes sort of a strange ask, and it can be, and then sometimes the project fails because for that reason.
indeed. Yeah.
So as procurement professionals are working towards this, and speaking of sort of having a strategic vision, like
Yeah.
what are some of the best practices or best approaches that procurement folks should have as they're moving moving towards digital transformation in their organizations?
Best practices are organizations who have a clear executive sponsorship starting digital transformation. That's where it starts.
Hmm.
In combination with a strong business case, what is the reason you want to digitalize or transform your procurement organization or procurement processes? And digitalization is not something that affects the procurement organization alone. It touches the entire organization. So what also is very relevant when starting digitalization is to have a very strong focus on your change management activities. Involve key stakeholders that can help you to support your business case, selling it to the board and to pitch it properly. So there can be internal control, there can be IT, there can be finance. There are many internal stakeholders, and let's not forget business stakeholders. And to make sure that they help you to get that green light and start building the project team to start the digitalization transformation journey. As I always say, digitalization is not just a tool implementation, it's a real business transformation. And it's something you can't do in splendid isolation. You really need to have a support from others, from the organization to make it a success.
Yeah, and do you find? I mean, this is purely an anecdotal question.
Yeah.
But is it your sense that the C-suite understands that, or is it still a matter of convincing them that procurement needs to be part of that strategic vision?
I see your organizations are start seeing that absolutely, and that it is important. The challenge here is that digitalization is not just a cash generator. It's not like, okay, we digitalize our procurement function and processes. It's like, okay, we can mine Bitcoins in a way. Not at all. That's not the case. So business case in terms of return on investment is a challenging one. And that's what I see in organizations. How do we measure and how do we track those benefits so that there is a real return on investment? Otherwise, those dollars savings or benefits are worth nothing at all. And then you spend a lot of money or invest a lot of money and time in digitalizing process. So that we can be very clear what are the strategic levers, but also what are the buckets that are bringing value, not only from a qualitative perspective, but also from a quantitative perspective. And that's the biggest challenge that I see as we speak. I'm working on a business case for our organization, DSM-Firmenich, to digitalize indirect procurement as the new company as we recently merged DSM to DSM-Firmenich. And of course, we have those discussions as well. It's so important to have clarity. How are you going to measure the return on your investment?
Right. How should organizations be approaching that measurement part? Right, because of course that's everything, right? If you can't prove the worth, then the C-suite is not going to bite. How do you do that?
No, indeed. Of course, there are different directions you can take to sell that business case, and benefits, potential benefits is one of the directions, but also from a qualitative perspective, to be compliant, risk mitigation, especially if you have, for example, recent cases where you run supply disruption, for example, is something that I'm for sure the board is sensitive to hear, okay, what can we do to prevent this? Or what can we do to mitigate this risk? And if digitalization is a solution to it, or will help you to prevent it in certain extent, to get better insights into your supply chain, to get better control on your sourcing, your purchasing, it will definitely help your business case and your pitch towards the board. Absolutely. But actually, it all starts with it having that clear vision and why are we going to do it? And that differs for organizations who really have serious problems in their from their supply chain. And then there are digital solutions that can help them to get more visibility and grip on their supply chains. But if the focus is much more on the benefits, and you really need to get a clear understanding, how are you going to measure it and how are you going to track that, so that you can really show to the C-level that the the C-suite to the what the deliverables of digitalization are.
We talked a little bit about the what and the how, but what about when? I mean, when should organizations be jumping on a digital transformation?
Yesterday, if you take your human organization seriously, we need definitely start working on digitalization. Also, I do speak a lot of organizations, and what I do here very often is we want to grow towards world-class procurement. And if I ask them, okay, please define world-class procurement, they don't know what world-class procurement is actually, or if they define it, it's very operational. Less technical or even strategic. I think the most important thing is that if you want to digitalize, is also to help to grow the maturity of your procurement function within your organization. You want to enable your procurement professionals with solutions that give them better insights in analytics, give them better insights in their supply chains, can run easily a sourcing event or an e-auction, to give a few examples. So when I get the question when to start, I will say yesterday. But to be honest, the moment you get up in the morning and you think about digitalization, start the journey. And that starts with the change management part, starts the lobbying work, start engaging with the key stakeholders to get that support. If you want to grow, definitely need to look at your digitalization of your procurement processes, because otherwise you will miss the future.
Well, so further on the when question, it's right. It's yesterday, right? That's a great answer. But I think for people who are right now thinking like, what do I need to do next? The when can be tricky because it depends. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. It depends on the size of the organization and what's all in place. Can you speak a little bit more to the nuance of when, depending on various factors, maybe the size of the enterprise or the market or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, well, true. Sad. Let's be honest. There are a lot of solutions available today. Digital solutions, end-to-end solutions, and we all know the nature of the big solution providers. But you not necessarily need a end-to-end solution. Maybe there are certain needs within your organization. I have seen beautiful solutions, IT solutions that can help you support certain processes. For example, your sourcing, stand-alone solutions that can help you to run sourcing events. Or even I have seen a beautiful AI-based solution that can help you to run negotiations automatically to, so let's focus more on retail spend management as an example. But also solutions on, finding the right supplier. I recently have been with a customer in Italy where they were looking for suppliers who could deliver new kind of raw materials as part of their sustainability journey. They want to become more sustainable in the production process. I see the solution also based on AI technology, where you can easily discover your suppliers across the globe, even in certain regions or certain continents, based on specifications, qualification criteria, etc. So it not necessarily mean that you need to have an end-to-end solution, which I can understand organizations are a bit reluctant to give them the high investment costs and the return on investment, but you can also look to certain steps of your processes and digitalize that. Most important thing is make it part of a clear vision, not just start picking a nice solution that's available in the market and start using it. Start using it or deploying it with a vision behind it.
You mentioned change management a couple of times.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a bit. If you would sort of define what you mean by it, and how important is it to the success of an organization's business transformation, and how should organizations be thinking about it?
Yeah, I like to quote John F. Kennedy: "Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future." And it's a beautiful bridge also to the change management part. if you look to a lot of digitalization transformation programs in organizations, it's very much focused in the IT solution itself. Getting to take users by the hand and to guide them through the changes. It's going to affect them left or right, and one more than the other. And you need to explain what you're going to do, why you're going to do, how, when, and how they will be affected by it, but also how they can benefit from it, and what support you need to make it a success together. And change management is very relevant in this whole transformation journey, because if you make the users part of the digital transformation, the adoption will be much easier than when you just throw it over the fence, thumbs up, and all the best with using the new solution. And you probably have examples yourself, Seth, from organization where this has happened. And the same as I have, I've seen it, and then the user satisfaction is very low. And change management has nothing to do about sending an email, hey, we're going to change something. No, because much further in terms of digital transformation and procurement is having supplier summits, because it will affect the suppliers as well, explaining what you guys do, stakeholder summits, animation videos explaining what you guys do, content loading sessions, change management. It's also focused on stakeholder management, having the right stakeholders supporting your program. So it's very broad. Where it all starts with, make clear who your stakeholders are, so you can have a tailor-made approach. And that's what we have done with digitalization transformation programs, legacy DSM, as well for the indirect procurement, where we had a clear understanding who our stakeholders were. To give you an example, we did the digital transformation during the pandemic. So everything was done virtually and remotely. And to make a digitalization journey successful, you need to have the people locally support the program. So what we did, we assigned 270 change champions across the globe supporting the program, focused on training activities, but also the eyes and the ears locally. If things were not running smoothly, they could address it to the central team. But they were also the first channel for certain questions related to the digitalization journey. So change management is very broad. We need to have a clear vision also on the change management activities, and make sure that change management is not done on top of a certain activity. No, that you have a dedicated team working on change management, communication, and training activities.
I think one of the things I'm hearing you say is that a lot of the change management is very human and very psychological, right? Just thinking about how people need to engage with a new thing, right? Because new things can be scary. One of the things that we've found a lot is that so much of it is about process adoption. Procurement processes can be obtuse and difficult. And so many of the stakeholders don't interface with those solutions enough to have it sort of as part of their day-to-day, right? So it becomes a user experience issue. And I think what I'm hearing you saying, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the entire approach to that change management is very human, very psychological.
Absolutely. Changing behavior of people, that's the most challenging part. Our chief solutions can be configured left or right into the direction you want to have it. But changing behavior of people is much more difficult to do so. If they are not convinced, they are not going to use it. And that's so important to make them part of it. And if you don't do that, then you're sure that you are not going to be successful with your whole digital transformation.
Absolutely. I want to pivot a little bit and talk about some of the technology, and specifically technologies around AI, which is a very, very broad term. But and I know, as you've written recently, this sort of new phase of procurement that we're in, there's a lot of intelligence built in or necessary. There's a lot of data. So the question would be, how can organizations use AI to be more successful in this digital transformation?
Well, all of the solutions we're using today in procurement are already having AI technology in it. So that's what you see as well. But it's becoming more and more important. I gave a few examples of the e-sourcing functionalities. There are solutions available in the market based on our AI technology, who can run a sourcing event completely automatically with a chatbot functionality communicating with the supplier. It's becoming more and more important, especially that the demands and requirements are becoming more and more complex as well. To give you an example, recent discussions also within our own organization on risk management, to get better insights in your entire supply chain regarding your carbon footprint. You see the supplier onboarding, for example, based on AI technology and blockchain technology. Supplier discovery solutions, also using AI technology, the example I gave earlier today, how we can discover suppliers all over the world based on that technology with certain questions. You can compare it with the technology you have probably all have heard about the ChatGPT and generative AI as well. And I do expect this is accelerating. This is really going very fast. You can't stop it. Whether you like it or not, you can't stop it. We can benefit from it. And of course, we need to be aware of those risks as well. Absolutely. And we need to have the discussion on how can we mitigate those and how can we make sure that we are as safe and as secure as possible as organizations. But you cannot stop artificial intelligence. And the options also for procurement are unbelievable. Are unbelievable, and enormous. What I do, if people go to my LinkedIn profile, for example, you see some articles where I always try to make a link with latest developments and how can it be used in a business environment or how can it be used within procurement. I'm a passionate wildlife photographer, and I do have subscription on Adobe Photoshop. And Adobe Photoshop is having a beta version, including AI technology. And it's unbelievable what is possible with those functionalities today, those solutions today. And I've made also the translation, how can this be used in procurement? And also ask others on fora, okay, what do you expect? What do you think? And those technologies can also be applied for catalog enablement, for example, or creating catalogs, all the visual, all those kind of things. But I'm trying to say here that left to right, all those developments will have an effect on procurement as well, whether you like it or not. But it's something you can't stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the things that I think has been interesting very recently is the LLMs like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
They've made it obvious to people what the capabilities are, right? This happens with every wave of new technology. I remember writing about Web 2.0, and by the time we were writing about it and people were paying attention, it was already happening. They didn't realize it. Like webmail, web-based email it was like, yes, you're already using Web 2.0. I'm just telling you what it is. And right now in AI, we're having that moment where average consumers are seeing what it can do, and they can use it very easily. And then they're sort of backwards applying that information, like, oh, there's a lot we can do with this. Right? And half the answer is we already are. Better catch up.
No, we need another example. I regularly speak at conferences as a keynote speaker, and in my keynote, I always have the topic on the Industrial Revolution, looking back to history. And in 1706, the steam engine was invented. And it took another 16 years before they started using it. So talking about change management, talking about adoption, and that's what every technology, new technologies, it will take time to adopt it by the users. But you do see that the adoption goes faster today. If you look, for example, to the iPhone, how fast that went. You can't imagine how not having an iPhone or a cell phone. If I explain to my children who are adults already, they can't believe that we lived without a cell phone. How did you contact Mama? I told them, okay, we used the telephone with a dial, and then we dialed the number, and then we got it to each other. They can't believe it goes so extremely fast, you can't stop it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
So I am going to quote you a line that you wrote in a recent LinkedIn piece, but I really like the idea, and I want you to tell us a little bit about it. You wrote, "Talent is the most important asset for procurement success." What do you mean by that?
You can't ever do do yourself. So you need the talents and to get new insights. They can ignite new ideas. They can ignite new innovations in procurement as well. It's a challenge to get good talents. It's a challenge to get the right people in your team. And this is something you really need to pay attention to as an organization, not only to attract the right people, but also to keep them within your organization. And I've always been very lucky to find the right people in my teams, but it's not something you can take for granted because it's very difficult. But in procurement as well, all this changes. And you need to have people not only talented, but also be able to adapt to all the changes we're in as well. And if people are not willing to make the change, then yeah, sooner or later you have to say farewell to each other, and everybody will move their own way, continue their own ways. But the talent is so extremely important also as procurement function to grow on the maturity ladder. And I have seen also with young people joining the organization, bringing new insights and eagerness, which is good for an organization, but also good for yourself. If you're in an organization for quite a long time, sometimes you get blind for certain things, and they have different perspectives. They bring in the outside in view or new insights, etc.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've ever received in your career?
Believe in yourself, block negative feedback in terms of people say you can't do this, you will never be able to do that, because you always have the doom thinkers, so to say. But believe in yourself, follow your passion, and be an entrepreneur. Also try new things, step out of your comfort zone. That's the most important thing. Try new things. A few nice example, if I may. I spoke with a colleague some time ago, and he said, I'm very surprised to see how every time you reinvent yourself or doing new things. And I think that is stepping outside of your comfort zone. Because otherwise you will not learn. And I have made mistakes. Oh, absolutely. I've learned from it, and then we moved on. And then you start building and you see yourself growing as well. And that's the most important advice I can give. First, believe in yourself and follow your path you believe in, and step out of your comfort zone.
I like it. That's fantastic advice. Is there anything you wish to promote or share about yourself or your company? And if people want to contact you, what is the best way to do that?
Oh, absolutely. As said, I have led several digitalization transformation programs for procurement globally. I can imagine that people listening to this podcast, hey, I'm interested. I want to learn from it, from Andries. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to do so. Also, given the fact that for the Dutch Association of Procurement and Supply Chain Management, NETSI, I have developed a leadership program, how to be successful with digital procurement business transformation. More than willing to explain a bit more about it, but if people are interested or in this program, they can reach out to me. But please do that via LinkedIn, because it's the most easiest way today.
Excellent. Well, Andries, thank you so much for being here with us today and for your time and expertise. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Seth.